Hey everyone, thanks for joining us this week on the Niners News Update. Obviously, this week or this past weekend was a bye for us, so no game. The Niners currently at 4-4. Really, the key things to talk about on this week's edition are who we're going to have back, and unfortunately, who we're not going to have back. So, I guess we'll start with the unfortunate stuff first, just to get that out of the way. Unfortunately, the Niners and this particular man seem to be snake bitten more than anybody that I've ever seen. Jason Verrett, who was back for all of 2 practices, he had just been activated off of IR and was getting ready to make his season debut against the Los Angeles Chargers, the team that
Almost
drafted
got
him back in 2015. They should be in San Diego still, honestly. They did those poor San Diego people dirty. But
right.
So he was set to make his return against the Chargers, and unfortunately in Thursday's practice, he tore his ACL, making that now the second time he's torn his ACL in the last, just over a year. He tore his ACL last in week 1 against the Lions last year. And his one full season with us in 2020, he was our best corner that we had, but he's only really played 2 full seasons since being a first-round draft pick in 2015. But he's a former Pro Bowler. He's been a good player, but unfortunately at this point, having torn both ACLs twice now, I think that Jason Verrett's career is unfortunately probably over. At least,
I don't understand how you keep playing after that many injuries. I mean, even after just doing one twice, like I don't know what the order was that they were torn in, but after at some point you just gotta be like, man, because imagine what it's gonna be like in 20 years when you've torn both your ACLs twice.
The man's really, and you've got to work back, and every time that happens, you've got to go through intensive rehab, and he's fought back through so much, so it really hurts your heart to see the poor man go through that. So thoughts and prayers, obviously, with Jason Verrett. I know that's tough for him. He was getting ready to, and we needed him too with Emmanuel Moseley out. That was going to be the one positive. Charvarius Ward has been playing real great, so he was going to come in and play next to him, and that was going to allow Diamador Lenore probably to go into the slot, or Samuel Womack, or maybe even Ambry Thomas. So we've still got other players, but definitely hate to see that happen to him. He was back on a 1-year deal that he had signed this past off season, kind of a low risk, low reward, but really hate to see that he'll be out for the rest of the year. So
yeah, he's likely gonna. I assume he would retire after this, after both of them twice.
I don't know if he's got another comeback in him. Obviously Jason Verrett's a really tough guy mentally, having rehabbed through that so many times. And he's also had other injuries too. That's just the ACL. He's had various other things, and he's fought through a lot. But it's like, at what point do you call it a career? And obviously, hopefully, he's able to get healthy and make the right decision. And obviously, that remains to be seen on what he does. The other one happened on Monday with pass rusher Samson Ebukam, where he injured his quad. Obviously, he'd already been battling through an Achilles injury, not a torn Achilles, but he had a strained Achilles. He's been playing well for us with 3.5 sacks on the season. We got him from the Rams. So he's questionable to play Sunday night against the Chargers. We'll end up seeing if he ends up suiting up or not. He's played in all 8 games so far, so even though he's banged up, he's been active in all of the games, which he's the only starting defensive lineman that we have that can say that. Bosa missed 1 game. Armstead's, limited to 3 games, and Kinlaw, I think, only played in 2 or 3 games himself. So most of our starting defensive line's been out. Armstead's questionable to play again. He's been going through several lower body injuries. It's not looking like he's going to play against the Chargers Sunday night. So that's kind of a disappointment. He's having a rough year staying healthy. And he hadn't missed a game in 3 or 4 straight years, so you hate to see that.
Yeah, you guys just cannot seem to catch a break with these injuries. It's ridiculous.
It's rough. And these two happening just in practice, dude. It wasn't even in a game.
Yeah, those would be absolute worst of in games, anything can happen. You know, it's always a risk. But when you hear that shit happens in practice, you're like, God, what were you doing in practice to make that happen?
The thing is, too, we got through the Rams game for the first time all season. We got through the Rams game completely unscathed. Kyle's like, no injuries to report after the game. It was great news. And then it's like, then we have 2 happen in practice. But, you know, we don't want to dwell on the negative.
The football gods are like, no injuries. Yeah. You can't have that.
Yeah, exactly. So we don't want to dwell completely in the negative because, I mean, there is some good news. We did get a lot of guys back that we're anticipating. Obviously, this week we have the Sunday night game against the Los Angeles Chargers. So fucking weird to say. But back at practice on Thursday, November the 10th, today, we're Deebo Samuel, who's been dealing with a hamstring. Kyle Juszczyk, dealing with the broken finger. Elijah Mitchell, who's been out since week 1. All of those guys returned. Only 4 guys on the injury list right now are Armstead, like we said, with the foot and ankle. Ebukam, who's questionable with an Achilles and quad. Dre Greenlaw, who still might play. And obviously Jason Verrett, who we know won't be playing because he's got the torn ACL. So, But, I mean, the Niners are healthier than they've ever been at any point. And Kyle was actually quoted in one of his press conferences going into this game saying that this is the most talent the man's ever coached. And if you think about it, he's got CMC, Deebo, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, Elijah Mitchell. They've got Tevin Coleman that they could bring up, and I think they've got Jordan Mason, who's a really talented young running back. So Juszczyk's coming back. Trent Williams is back. Aaron Banks is playing lights out. He's the highest graded offensive lineman right now at like a 93.8 by Pro Football Focus. Aaron Banks he might be MVP of the season so far. Jimmy's been playing well. I mean, and one other storyline. I hope he's healthy because he's been dealing with a groin since week 4. This could be the first ever Bosa Bowl with Joey playing against Nick. This is the first time they've ever matched up.
What? That's awesome.
Joey hasn't played since week 4. Joey, of course, the 3rd overall pick in the 2016 draft, or I'm sorry, 2015 draft, and then Nick, of course, the 2nd pick in the 2018 draft. So they were both drafted really high. And also, if either of them gets a half sack in this game, the Bosa family, along with their dad, John, the Six family collectively, to have 100 sacks in the NFL.
There's 6 already?
Jeez. So you've got the Matthews, which is like Clay Matthews Sr., and Casey Matthews, the linebackers. Then you've got John and Irvin Randall. And then let's see who else. You've got the Longs, Howie and Chris. So yeah, I mean the Bosa's well on their way. And John didn't have that many of those sacks. He was a player with the Miami Dolphins, but I think he only played 3 or 4 seasons. So most of those sacks are from Joey and Nick. But it's kind of bittersweet because like from a competition standpoint, I know how much of a game record Joey Bosa is. So it's like I kind of hope he's not on the field. But from like a cool storyline standpoint, how cool that would be to like get to. They're not playing directly against each other, but getting to play your brother in the game is always pretty cool.
Yeah,
and I'm sure that would provide one of them with bragging rights over the other one, which is always notable. You can always talk shit to your brother for the next year and be like, "We beat you." But I mean, the Chargers are 5-3. We're 4-4. So both teams, if the season ended right now, that are looking like playoff teams. But obviously, there's a lot more season to go. We're halfway through the season now. Another thing I'll mention: Trey officially got the walking boot off, so that happened this week. So Trey is officially moving around without the boot. Obviously, he's still got a long road to recovery, but that's certainly a sign towards progress. John Lynch also was quoted as saying earlier in the week that, you know, they've been in communication with Trey, and Trey is ready to take over as the starter whenever he's ready, which obviously won't be until next season.
Yeah.
But, you know, if Jimmy balls out, I mean, he's either going to get a new contract somewhere else, or, I mean, if Jimmy continues to play at this level, we're not going to get him for the deal that we did, because, I mean, somebody else is going to – the NFL's not going to make that same mistake twice. I mean, the NFL let Jimmy Garoppolo go one off season, and, yeah, there were some feelers here and there, but, I mean, nobody pulled the trigger. And there's a lot of teams, like Carolina right now, that I'm sure, you know, really wish they had Jimmy.
Yeah, for sure.
Texans could use Jimmy.
The Colts.
The Colts were in the running for him, too. They talked about it, but then they're like, nah, we're going to go with Washington was in the running to get Jimmy. I mean, imagine Jimmy with your offense. I mean, if they could protect him, he'd be lethal. Getting the ball to your receivers.
Probably.
You know, Jimmy likes to work the tight end.
Get Logan Thomas some action again. It's been sad this season.
Yeah. Absolutely. And the Chargers are pretty awful against the run, so they're really susceptible to getting gashed. And with CMC and Elijah back, I imagine we're going to probably run the ball more than we're going to throw, especially if they've got, you know, because the Chargers have Khalil Mack and potentially Joey Bosa, so they're going to be, you know, coming after him a lot. So I think if Kyle can keep it on the ground as much as possible, he's going to be trying to do that. But that doesn't mean Jimmy's not going to still make some plays. I mean, I imagine he'll throw at least 1 or 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to keep it to short, quick passes and try and just run the ball. Do some tricky shit with Debo, maybe.
Jimmy's deep ball has been getting better, dude. Like in recent weeks, he's hit like Ray McLeod on one. He's hit a few of the deeper balls. He's hit Ayuk on a few.
I just more meant about the pressure he'd be under. He probably wouldn't have the time to get the deep ball off.
For the developing route. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, because they're going to be blitzing. But, I mean, hopefully our offensive line – I mean, Mike McGlinchey's had a couple of rough weeks in a row. But, obviously, Trent Williams and Aaron Banks continue to be solid. Like I said, Aaron Banks might be our most underrated player so far with how he's been playing. But, yeah, I mean, Sunday night, big game against the Chargers. Chance to go to 5-4, get within 1 game of Seattle. Seattle's obviously got a tough matchup this week against. That's right. They've got Tampa. They've got Tampa in Munich.
Okay.
So.
Oh yeah.
Go Bucks. Go Tom Brady.
Right.
Hopefully he can get the Seahawks down to 6-4 for us and get us within, you know, that 1 game. But join us next week. We'll recap the Chargers game, let you know how that went, as well as any other Niners related news. I think we've covered everything this week. Hopefully we can avoid any more injuries going into this weekend's game. So stay healthy, everybody, and stay safe out there. And like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you always want to stay in the know with Niners and really just any NFL content, like and subscribe. Have a good night. And that's going to do it for the Extra Point Show this week. Make sure that you subscribe if you're not already. It really helps us out and helps us grow. Give us a like as well.
Absolutely. And if you're a Washington fan or a San Francisco fan, make sure to always check out the Commanders Countdown and the Niners News Update.
Okay, well, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you all next week.
See you next week.